Having met with hundreds of people planning for retirement, I think I've uncovered the single $25,000 expense that's generated the most happiness in their lives. One retirement expense they've never actually regretted, an investment that paid more dividends than anything else, but not how you'd think. I'm talking about extended family trips, the kind where, grandparents, kids, grandkids, all coming together, sharing meals, adventuring, exploring, annoying each other, complaining about the food, all those tacky t-shirts that you see walking around, the whole bit. We just had a client come in beaming after pulling off one of these trips for his whole squad. So in this video, I'll share why these trips are becoming really popular, how they're funded typically, the hidden value that they'll create for your family, a few trips for maybe pulling this off, and why the heck I'm filming this from Mazatlan. Hey there, I'm Steve Willems. I'm a practicing certified financial planner and wealth advisor with the Willems Wealth Planning Group up in BC. We started this channel to help you plan for your own retirement, helping you think about how to plan and arrange your investments, your income streams, and ideally pay less tax along the way. So here's the deal. The best 5-figure retirement expense isn't actually a fancy car. It's not a big ticket kind of an item for your home. It's something far more valuable than any of that. It's an extended family trip. Now, we're not talking about some wild, kind of like exotic adventure to Bora Bora. These can be far more basic than that. We're talking about the kind where the grandparents, the kids, the grandkids, they're all coming together for a week, maybe 10 days. They're gonna eat, laugh, swim, just enjoy being with each other. The ones where you're gonna get matching t-shirts with the family name printed on them, and those photos that everyone pretends to hate, but they actually secretly love. These trips obviously carry some value like in the moment, right? Like you do enjoy them, but they actually go far further than that. They become a part of your family's story. These are the types of memories that actually appreciate over time. They get more and more valuable as the years go by, because the reality is that no one looks back 5 years later and says, hey, I really regret doing that trip with my family. And so here's why this matters for you now. There tends to be a sweet spot in life where everyone's healthy enough, maybe mobile enough, available to pull off a trip like this. The grandparents may be retired or soon to be retired. Grandkids aren't yet bogged down by their own kind of careers and family. And the kids, maybe you and me, are somewhere in between. If we were to draw out this specific season of life, it'd look something like this. Right? We'd have our grandparents up here. We'd have the lives of the kids right here. We'd have the grandkids right here. And then we're kind of cutting through this specific moment of time where we've got this narrow range of opportunity to pull off something like this. This moment really won't last forever either, right? If we're honest, it actually tends to be pretty fleeting. It's rare to find this specific kind of narrow overlap in everyone's lifetimes. And once it's gone, it's gone. And that's why these trips are so important. They're actually about capturing this moment in time that we have together and investing it in something that truly lasts. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. These trips tend to not be cheap necessarily. A big family trip might run maybe $10,000, $20,000, maybe $25,000, depending on the size of your family and where you want to go. If there's an average that I'm seeing someone spend to create something like this, it is in that $25,000 range. Cruises work great for this, right? But so do all-inclusive resorts where you can kind of set yourself up with like a package deal where everything's going to be bundled together. And when you get to wherever you're trying to go, there's something for everyone. Maybe it's a ski chalet up on the mountain or a summer cottage rental out on the lake. You get to pick. No one size fits all here. And if the $25,000 isn't going to fit into your plans, that's totally fine. The concept and the principle at play here still completely applies. So what I've seen a lot of families do is actually I'll run a front-loaded kind of cost-sharing approach, right? The grandparents or maybe the patriarchs of the family will often cover the bigger ticket items, maybe the airfare, the accommodations, or the rental house where everyone stays. Then the kids are going to chip in for discretionary spending, right? That meals out, activities, that type of thing. It kind of keeps the trip a little bit more affordable for everyone. But it takes a little bit of a team effort. Now, could you spend that money on something else in retirement? Well, of course, right? But I've never actually heard anyone come into my office and say, hey, well, I really wish I bought that nicer car instead of that family trip. On the other hand, I've heard plenty of people say that trip was hands down the best thing we've ever spent our money on. When you're thinking about retirement expenses and whether to work one more year, you should ask yourself, could that extra year of work actually fund a trip like this? And what would that mean for your family? It's not just about the money, it's about these memories, these connection moments, the legacy that you're building. We could go on and on about the academic benefits of something like this, right? You probably know them all. Strengthened family bonds, better psychological and emotional well-being, planting those family legacy seeds, even practical benefits of just like economies of scale when you're coordinating group travel, right? More bang for your buck. The stories tell better than anything, so let me share mine. Back in 2015, us Willemses, we found ourselves at kind of a unique stage of life. Us grandkids hadn't yet had kids of our own yet. Grandma and Grandpa were still in good shape, but we were all going through our lives, right? Your grandparents had planted the seeds, though, for an incredible legacy. They showed up when it mattered, right? Intentional conversation, right? Saskatchewan roots meant that whenever we were together, there was probably some horsepower, a bonfire, some great food. But the time that we all gathered together as a group was starting to kind of gap out, right? The spaces between those moments were becoming longer. And so they, in their wisdom and foresight, they saw this and they laid some fingerprints. For us, it was an Alaska cruise. All 18 of us, the single most generous act that they ever did as grandparents financially. One evening, in fact, we actually just piled into a lounge. We listened to my grandparents intentionally share their life story, right? Like what they learned, what they picked up on, what the values they learned along the way, what they'd hope we would learn as kids and grandkids. This was 9 years ago, but it does feel like it happened yesterday. And even more rich is that some of the people that were in that room are no longer with us, but the memory of that moment continues to live kind of rent-free in the mind. It actually continues to appreciate in value with age. So then flash forward today, we caught wind a few months ago that some extended family members were planning their own version of this, just slightly different kind of generational stage. Still 3 generations, just a little bit earlier, grandparents in their 60s versus mid 70s. In this case, it was my wife's aunt and uncle. One member of their family figured it was kind of safe enough to extend the invite out to the broader family, right, to us. My wife and I, we kind of looked at each other and instantly knew this was an immediate yes, right? And we booked it the next day. The nice thing here, we didn't need to pick the dates, we didn't need to pick the time, we didn't need to pick the location, we just needed to show up. And so because it was so easy, we actually kept it a surprise from the rest of the family. We waited until everyone flew in from all across Canada to finally surprise them in the hotel lobby here in Mazatlan just a few days ago. And I tell you, the look on their faces worth every single penny. But better yet, right, the rock hopping with grandparents, the spontaneous hotel lobby card games of Dutch Blitz, right, being tossed around the pool by your great aunts and uncles, who up until now my kids wouldn't have probably spent more than 24 hours with in their entire lives. Now, fast friends who they won't soon forget, right? These memories become immediately core memories. They're locked in, they're set apart from kind of the daily maintenance of life. And one of the best lines from this week was from one of those grandparents, my wife's uncle, who said, "Man, if I had just known the grandkids were so much fun, I'd have had them first," right? Classic dad joke. He's just playing his part. The reality is, though, as families, like immediate and extended, we just really don't spend as much time together with family as we age. The American Time Use Survey from Our World and Data really spells this out point blank, right? Time with family is flatlining after your mid-20s. Time with your kids peaks in your mid-30s and then obviously drops back down. So the goal here is to set aside a week, maybe 10 days, where you're going to purposefully make a massive deposit in that collective memory bank, right? You're going to attempt to transform this graph, right? Endeavor to add a spike on your own life's time chart. So here are the 3 quick tips for just pulling this off. The first, just to start planning probably about a year in advance, right? These trips take a ton of effort. The coordination of schedules is going to be the hardest part. Depending on the season of life that your family's at, planning probably, aim for it starting about 12 months out. Second, you're going to choose a destination that's going to hopefully suit all generations. Once that schedule's been nailed, that destination and kind of coordinating the preferences is going to be next. So obviously going to be lots of approaches here, right? Like you can go the buy-in route and hope for consensus amongst all the participating family members, or maybe you can go to the route of the benevolent dictator, right? And make a thoughtful selection on the commitment of covering the cost for everyone else. Like however you pick it, that's the next step. Third, you're going to set aside time for those intentional moments. Once you're there, try to do 2 or 3 intentional things that will really just lock this memory in place, right? The group picture with everyone all in that one shot, perhaps like an excursion off the beaten path, some period of hardship that's going to just catalyze that memory. A challenge that everyone has to accomplish together, like setting aside space for those family moments, that family sharing. Again, these things don't happen by accident, they take intention. Again, all this is going to cost some big bucks. So in cases where you can bake this into your actual financial plan, just like a vehicle purchase, that's obviously an option. Others will do it actually a little bit differently. Like they'll work an extra, say, 4 months to set aside funds just for this specific goal. Mathematically, do they need to do it this way? Probably not, but they just like the fact that there's like a clear line between their effort and this one final specific deliberate experience. These are the final dollars that Papa or Grandpa earned before retiring that helped pay for this trip. It just has a nice ring to it. And again, it might make it a little bit more memorable for the younger generations. At the end of the day, though, these trips really aren't about travel, right? They're about breaking up the daily routine, showing up for the people that you love that won't soon be forgotten. Again, our clients, they spend money on all sorts of things. It really doesn't matter to me as long as it makes them happy. But in this area, it does tend to be one of the areas that there is the least amount of regret. Eventually, we just see that enough times and you just start showing up uninvited on those same trips yourself, just like we've done here. Anyway, there's your nudge to make it happen. I promise you won't regret it. If you've done this with your own family, shoot me a note in the comments with what you did and how you felt about it. Or if you're hoping to make this happen sometime down the road in your own plans, what have you got in mind? As always, I'd love to hear from you. But hey, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I gotta go hop in the pool.